Good morning, folks. Hope you're okay. Early birds. If you can just type in a message, just let me know that you can hear and see me okay. That'd be really well received. Thank you. Hi, Eugene. Good morning. Hope you're okay. Glorious day down here today. Great. Thanks, Jane. Appreciate that. Good morning, folks. Warm welcome to you. It's exactly 10 o'clock now, so we'll get started in a couple of minutes. Good morning, Helen. What follows what? Hi, Les. Very warm welcome to you from Scotland. Lovely. Now, on my screen here, just before we start, it says that I've got 9 people online, but I think that's the only that's the 9 people who are signed in. Are any of you watching now? And it can tell you how many people are watching from your side. If you can just send me a message, if that is the case. It says I've got 10 people online now, but I think that's only people who are signed in. Just goes to 10. Okay, thank you. Good morning, Brian. Thanks, Helen. Good morning, Henry. It is nice on the first tee, actually. It's a lovely day out here. Really beautiful. Alrighty, give it a couple more minutes. It's 2 minutes past 10 now. Good morning, Don. Hope you're well. Alrighty, 1 more minute. It's 3 minutes past, and then we'll get started. 15 people online now. Good morning, everybody. Hope you're all well. Glorious day out here. Good morning, Robert. Hope you're well. I noticed with your weight, left big toe and right heel, your left heel lifts on the backswing. Old school. Old school indeed, actually, Dom, but also very much new school. And the pitch I'm going to talk about today is Matt Wolf here. Come on again. You look at that leg activity there on Matt Wolf, young guy in his 20s, very hot swing at the minute. Lots of left heel off the ground. Of course, Jack Nicklaus, my favourite, was a huge left heel lifter, as was Tom Watson. Lots of good players lift that left heel off the ground. Helps the body to shift properly. I'm also going to talk a little bit today about how what I talk about isn't relevant to everybody, and how the body changes and how pros make changes in their swing over their careers and how they take pressure off their body to make their swing, they make their golfing careers longer. So when we don't move that left heel off the ground, the body has to stay a little bit more static and it puts more twist on the body. I'll talk a bit more about that as well today. Okay, 1 more minute. It's 5 past by my watch. I'll have 1 more minute. Joe Cochran does it. The mighty Joe. A lot of good players do it. And in fairness, Don, I have to say, I wish I'd not read some of the stuff I've read over the years and applied to my own swing. It's caused disastrous results for me over the years. You know, getting bogged down in technique, which has been proven to be really wrong. And also what the pros don't do. They may be saying that they do it, but they actually don't. Well, first of all, a very good morning to you all. I think we'll get started now. It's 6 minutes past 10 by my clock. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you all had a nice Easter, or as nice as you could have had, given the circumstances. Alrighty, so I'm just going to catch up first of all on what we talked about very briefly in the first 2 sessions. We started with the foot position, where I talked about the weight being on the right heel and the left big toe, and that predetermines an angle slightly that way for me during the swing. That, of course, helps me to hit from the inside. So it's all very well me talking about the inside. I'm going to talk a little bit more detail today about what that actually means. I keep talking about hitting from the inside. I'm going to spend a little bit more time on that today. So I'm obsessed by hitting from the inside. I give golf lessons every single day. Anybody who comes from the outside on the wrong plane over here loses power and loses accuracy. It's a double disaster. So stance from this dimension here, we're talking right heel, left toe. Face on here, I said right foot square, left foot slightly flared out. Then we talked about how the knees and the legs work. And I talked about this exercise here, where my right leg and hip and bum go backwards as I swing the club up or around to here. Then on a return to the ball, the opposite happens. This knee comes forward and around. The left knee comes behind. My buttock comes behind. Backwards, backwards. It's that motion in the lower body that really drives the energy in the swing. Oh, hi Lorna, hi Quentin. I'm going to talk a little bit about senior golf today in answer to your email of last week. So just going through a catch up now. So from this angle, it's right side behind, left side behind. If you focus on my hip action here, my leg action, it's this motion around here. So that's the building block and the energy and the power in the swing. And if we go back to the picture I was showing a moment ago of Matt Wolff, who's one of the hot names in golf at the minute, very quirky looking swing. Look at the motion in his leg activity there. Huge amount of leg motion. He's not holding back one bit. And funny enough, I watched an old video of Wuzzy last night in the 1990s. Loads of leg action going backwards and forwards. And if we go, again, look at the best of all times. There he is, loads of bend in his left knee, I beg your pardon. As he's swinging backwards and forwards. So that's what we talked about last time, building the energy, the engine in the swing in the lower body, getting that lower body really working. I'm going to talk today about the trunk and how the body and the hands and arms work, the upper body and hands and arms work. So, again, something else I wish I'd spent less time talking about my members is posture. We got into a habit a few years ago, 10 years ago or so, of getting everyone to have a ramrod straight posture here, and it just made people have bad backs and also limited how well they could swing. Loads of good players have a slightly soft posture. Rounding in the shoulders here, instead of being ramrod straight. Now we see pictures of someone like Adam Scott, who's a supreme athlete. He has an amazing posture anyway, and he will stand to the ball with a very rigid, upright spine like this. I can show you dozens of photographs of other pros with a softer posture. Certainly at impact, no pro has a very straight back here. There's bend in the back as they create all the force going down. Now, if I then show you the extreme version of what I'm talking about there, I find it. You've seen me show you this picture before. This is the guy who drives it 400 yards. That is most certainly not a ramrod straight back at all there at impact. So there's little point in having a ramrod straight back at address, really. So like I said, that nice soft posture where the shoulders are slightly stooped is perfect for golf. So, one for Ian Chapman there, one of my lefties. You can see again there, a real curve throughout his entire spine there. He's not standing with his spine absolutely flat. He's straightened his legs, and he's got a real curve in his spine there. Okay, so we've created the engine now in the lower body. How does the upper body work? Well, if the right side in the lower body goes behind us, the right side must follow suit. We're going to talk about how we coordinate the two elements today, the engine of the lower body and the upper body, which controls the club, hands and arms. Now, one of the best images I've been given on how to improve one's rotation, turn, putting the right side behind us, is to think about the rib cage. If the rib cage rotates around, then everything above and below will rotate as well. Now, you heard me talk last time. I was talking about putting the right side behind me, opening up my body to face you now. And that's now a golf swing position there. As I pull that right side back, I can't do it in isolation. I can't just push my bum back. I've got to push everything behind me. And of course, now my right shoulder's behind me. My rib cage has moved all the way around. I've opened up around here. So I've made a full turn. Going back to a point I was saying earlier about some of the garbage I've read about and then tried to apply to my swing and also try to teach to members, 20 years ago, was all about distance through resistance. Don't let the lower body work and turn against it. It's so hard. Bad for your back. I can't create any motion. I can create motion if I open up that right side and pull it behind me. So this distance through resistance nonsense that we were taught as PGA professionals, or that we read about from people like David Ledbetter, has been proven not to be workable anyway. And the pros weren't doing it. So we're talking here now about the right side going behind us, and the right shoulder, right rib cage, and right bum cheek, everything is behind now. We're now going to talk about the angle at which that happens. So we're now talking about plane, the plane of the swing. That'd be a horizontal plane, that'd be a vertical plane. The shoulder plane, for most clubs in the bag, is round about 45 degrees here. As we get into shorter clubs, that shoulder plane becomes a little steeper. As we get into longer clubs, that shoulder plane becomes a little flatter to the ground here. So one of my favorite exercises to really understand how this works in a very natural sense is the windmill. If I was to stand vertically, my windmill will go around me, or my propeller wings will go around me. With a little bit of golf posture in there, they swing around me like so. And you can see it's natural for me to have my arms and my shoulders in plane. I wouldn't have them misaligned because I'd just wobble around and I'd be loose. Think of a helicopter's rotators around here. If one of them was misaligned or both are misaligned, you've got a real problem in how the machine works. So it's a fantastic exercise, this, in syncing everything together. And synchronization or coordination is all about the sequence of the golf swing. If we get those elements of the body working, the engine, the power, the balance in the lower body, and then the upper body moves on plane, really important point, which I'm going to spend more time talking about today, you direct as much power as is possible from your frame, your strength, your age, your suppleness into the back of that ball. I guarantee you every time that's 90% of the battle. And one of the big problems that we have as instructors, or we've created as instructors, or YouTube videos like this can create, is that people focus on the wrong thing. The right thing to focus on in golf is getting your club head to optimize its speed into the back of that ball. And I can't do that if I'm misaligned or off plane or out of position. So the plane of my shoulders we're talking about here is set by the angle at which I bend as address. I want the helicopter, the windmill, the rotation action, whatever you want to call it, to be aligned here in this exercise that I'm doing. And it's a tremendous way of feeding efficiency transfer from your body motion into the hands and arms, because ultimately that's a golf swing. The body motion has to be transferred into the hands and arms to release the power of the club head into the back of the ball. It's a sequence. Unfortunately, golf takes place in about a second and a half. This golf swing takes place in about a second and a half. I mean, how difficult is that to get everything in sequence? Now, when I'm breaking it down like this, because we have the luxury of doing this, it means that you can think about these things, practice these things at home, rehearse the motions at home, and you may well discover a better way of making your swing happen. Now, I say the luxury. As a coach, I'd love to be able to go through this sort of process with people over a long period of time before they even hit a golf ball. But of course, I'm impatient to watch you hit a golf ball. You're impatient to see a ball fly and improve and what have you. And so it sort of speeds up the process. And we also miss out really on the true details of the swing. So whilst we have this time off together, this exercise here, I recommend you do. And if you can do it with a patio window or a mirror to your side, you will see what I'm seeing here in my video screen and what you're seeing on the screen. And my arms are in plane with the engine, the rotary part of my body. So if my body moves like that around my spine position and my shoulders stay on plane, i.e. I don't lift up like this or make a weird sort of stooping movement, it then leaves the hands and arms, the weakest part of the swing, really. Think of the power that's in your legs, your chest and your shoulders, much more power than in your hands and arms in terms of physical strength. It means that if those elements of the swing are working correctly, the hands and arms have fewer problems to make. Now, that doesn't mean to say you won't make mistakes, but it means you've got less chance of doing so. So as I swing the club up here now, my hands and arms have a plane. So my shoulder plane is about 45 degrees. My left arm, the glove arm, is slightly higher upright than that in my swing. Now, when I get wrong in my swing, I make mistakes in my swing, I get my left arm too much underneath my shoulders. That's level with the shoulders, that's above the shoulders. Now, let me show you here. So you've got three great players here. Good morning, Mel. You've got three great players there. On the left-hand side of your screen is Matt Kuchar. His glove arm is below the plane of his shoulders. In the middle is Tiger, and his glove arm is slightly upright of his shoulders. And then the far right-hand side, there's Jim Furyk, where his glove arm is way higher than his shoulder plane. I'll come back to that picture in a second. So the first picture showed Kuchar making a body turn, and his glove arm goes right underneath here. A very difficult position for most golfers because I'm so gummed up. You wouldn't want to throw something from there. You'd throw something from here and throw. Kuchar gets gummed up here, then throws from there. It works for him though, right? Tiger Woods, the ultimate modern swing to here, and his glove arm is slightly higher than his shoulder plane. Furyk, who may well have a what some people think is a peculiar looking swing, has had a huge career. Very, very long career, started in the mid-90s, is still playing successfully now, still a relevant name in some events now. It's like 25 years at the top of the game. Incredible, very athletic man as well. And he's got a swing. And by the way, Furyk's dad's a PGA pro, as is Sergio Garcia's dad. So Furyk's father, as a PGA pro, taught Furyk to play. And then when he was one of the sort of better players of his region, he was ready to go to college, an NCAA college in the States. And his dad took him to the colleges. And on the seventh college visit to 7 different colleges, they'd had 6 head coaches at each college say, that guy's got to change his swing. He'll go nowhere with that. And on the 7th college visit, the head pro said, look, don't change his swing, just make him a better player and we'll work hard in his game for him. And that's the college they chose. And of course, the rest is, Jim Furyk's one of the best players of our generation. So quirky swings, they work. And Furyk's has worked for years. So let's go back to those pictures again now so you see what I'm talking about here. Each has got active legs, each has got an active hip action, rotary body action, but look at the differences in where their glove arm, their left arm, swings around their body. So what we have to do as PGA professionals for you is look at the fundamentals of the swing, and what I said before, the absolutes. Just let me look at my notes here. What are the absolutes in a swing, and what are the variables? I can have 2 lessons in a day where I'm asking somebody to swing their arms lower around their body here, because that's better for their swing, to get a strike which comes around the body. We'll talk about these swing planes a bit more in a second. I may well say to somebody, in fact, Ian Chapman, who's one of my lefty lessons, he hits the ball best when he lifts the club up, much more upright. So we have to find what your natural errors are, work against them, and then with that huge range of swing plane, find out which is the best for you. I know, like I said, I play my best golf when I'm upright, slightly upright. I play my worst golf. I'm horrible with the driver when I swing the club too flat. Okay, so what is the swing plane? In simplest terms, if I had a hammer and I wanted to hammer down a post, I would align my levers, 1, 2, 3, swing the hammer up and bash it down. if I misaligned my levers, I lose a tremendous amount of power. Now, that leverage action I'm talking about there, bashing a hammer down, is a perfect line straight down on top of the post. If I had a post here, or a nail into a wall, there's lots of incorrect planes to attack, and one fabulous plane, really smacking into the back of that nail. So on this plane, it is horizontal, because the nail wants power applied horizontally. In this plane, it is vertical, because the nail or the hammer, the post, wants the power applied horizontally. A golf swing is more or less in between those 2 points, horizontal and vertical. So when we talk about the swing plane, it's that motion there. That's a horizontal swing plane, which would mean I'd top the ball or miss it entirely. And a vertical swing plane, I'll definitely make contact with the ball, but I'll just split it in two or drive it into the ground. A golf swing is in between those 2 points. So when I'm trying to apply the swing, yes, I swing from the inside, but that's the swing plane. Now the swing plane moves in more or less that sort of angle there. The world's best players have a spread on the way back of about 9 inches from the guys who go inside, on average, the guys who go inside and the guys who go upright. But on the return to the ball, it's only 3 inches. So that tells you everything you need to know. On the return to the ball, they're all coming down to the back of the ball in an extremely similar fashion. 3 inches about that. So if you look at all these weird and wonderful swings, Matt Wolff, who takes it up here, gets into this position. Furyk, who takes it up here into this position. And then Kuchar, who swings it around here. They all return back to the ball on a 3-inch line, because they know that Mother Nature, physics, tells them there's a perfect line at which to apply the power to the back of the ball. Same applies for every club in the bag. So all the different swing shapes that we see, and all the different swing arcs that we see, and all the different quirks and ticks and speeds and what have you that you see in the swings, they all amount to more or less the same thing. The club meets in the back of the ball from the inside with a square face. Remember, oblique is weak. Oblique can arrive from loads of different ways. That's oblique, that's oblique, that's oblique, that's oblique, that's square. And the plane of a square strike is pretty similar throughout every top player. Okay. So there's a very famous story of Sam Snead, who was not light on self-confidence. And Snead was full of character, full of vim, and he was at a live conference debating the golf swing with a top coach, John Jacobs. And John Jacobs was a gruff Yorkshireman. And so these two fantastic personalities, two big men. John Jacobs had played Ryder Cup golf. He was a very good player back in the 50s and 60s. And of course, Sam Snead, one of the greatest players of all time. And they were having this heated debate where Sam Snead was saying that golf swing is all about the legs. If you can't use your legs and can't use the body, you'll never play golf. And John Jacobs was saying, no, I'm sorry, Sam, but I teach golf all the time. People have to learn to use the hands and arms properly. The game's all about leverage in the hands and arms. So Snead says, Jacob, you know what you're talking about? And John Jacobs says to Sam Snead, he said, okay, Sam, how far can you hit a golf ball off your knees? Sam Snead, being the braggart he was, said, I can hit about 250 off my knees. And Jacob says, well, that illustrates my point, because you can't use your legs if you're kneeling down to hit a golf ball. And so Jacobs won that debate. And what's the point of that debate? I've talked an awful lot about how my body works here. Now, going back to Quentin's request for a bit more information on how senior golfers play, over time, the world's top players, as they age, Gary Player was very famous for doing this. They changed their swing to suit their body limitations. And so Gary Player talked more and more about raising his left heel to allow his body to rotate and get behind the ball a bit more. So the further he went into his career, the more he'd do this. Now, going back to John Jacobs' story, hands and arms, if I position my body with a soft posture here, then my hands and arms should be nice and loose as well. I shouldn't have too much tension. And a golf swing is beautifully described. It's a swing. It's a movement to and fro. So you don't want tension or pressure in the hands here. Remember I talked last time, that's a handle. We hold the handle, we don't grip it. So I set myself up here. That motion of the hands and arms there is mostly hands and a little bit of arms. So as my arms swing back and forth, my hands can really flick and create some power. I can hit the ball a reasonable distance with little body motion, but a flick of the hands. So another great exercise you can do at home is turn the club upside down. Work on your body motion, let it be free, not stiff, and then get that swishing action. And you'll hear when I make that swishing action where my swish is. It's down here. I want all the club head speed to be. So I'm allowing my body to move quite freely. And then a flicking action of the hands and arms. Now when I do this with complete beginners, they rarely find a very bad plane. They sort of swing the club more or less around their body on plane, because physics and Mother Nature wouldn't make that a logical shape. It would make that a logical shape. And so as best we can as golfers, we have to try and apply what physics has already designed for us into some form of a golf swing. So in terms of the differences for seniors, first things first, if you were to, let's acknowledge this oblique being weak first of all. When I hit a golf ball with any club, if I open the face, the oblique strike is underneath it. And that has two problems. First of all, it's going to send the ball to the right. And secondly, the strike is more underneath the ball than it should be. It'll send it high and not really penetrate it further. So the first thing you have to do as a senior golfer, if you want to maintain your distance or indeed increase your distance, is ensure every time you hit a golf ball, that club face is square at the back of it, or even slightly closing during the strike. If that sends the ball left, it's simply aim further right because you'll optimize the distance. We know this through all the work we do on TrackMan, that when a club face points like that as it hits the ball, we can corrupt the amount of distance we get, we can add distance. And that's why if you look at some of the really long hitters, they seem to hit their wedges, 9-irons, huge distances. And what they're doing there is they're taking a very lofted club and they're corrupting the strike. So by the time they hit the ball, the club here is twisted over and it's got about half its natural loft on. If this sand wedge here has 54 degrees and I really corrupt that club, I'm hitting about 25 to 30 degrees. That ball's going to go miles and very low. I can't do the same with the driver because it's only got 10 degrees of loft anyway. By the time I do that too much, I've got negative loft and I then get an oblique strike with the driver. So that's why when I work on the TrackMan, sometimes we can get the people's wedges, 9-irons and 8-irons to outperform what's optimum. They hit the ball further, and that's because they're hooking the ball. Now, to hook a ball, we have to aim to the right of target. So if I had a limited body range, and don't forget I teach an awful lot of disabled servicemen, people with no legs, with one leg, with all sorts of limbs missing. One of the first things we do with them all is get them to aim right of target, like this, and then really think about the hook shot. Limited range of motion, get that ball hooking over, because that will create a lot of power. But in order to do that, to get that ball to finish on my target, the bunker down there, I've aimed, 30 or 40 degrees right of target. Alrighty, so we've talked there about the sequence of what we started with. How did the feet start? Second session, we talked about how the legs, the knees go backwards and forwards in the swing, and then that synchronizes into how the body works. Next week, we're going to talk about the head works and how the head works inside and out, because the head has a huge role in the golf swing. Think of your eyes. When Marco Mira suddenly became one of the best players in the late 90s, he did two things. One was he went to the Bridgestone ball, same with Nick Price in the 90s, and all of a sudden that ball just hit the ball so much further for them. Both of them were well into their 40s by then, but that new ball the Bridgestone, which they played back then, completely reinvigorated their game. And the second thing which really invigorated Marco Mira's game was understanding his eye line as he addressed the ball. He had been addressing the ball a little like this. Now, if your head weighs round about 1/8 of your total body weight, the minute you tuck that head and tilt it into different positions, boy, oh boy, does that have an impact on your shoulder alignment. And your shoulders have two alignments, don't they? The first is because we wear a glove on the left hand, and we want the left side lever to be as long as possible. That's why we start the shaft of the club into the left hip socket along the left arm here. Any corruption of that leverage, you lose power. Left hand goes on top of the handle, right hand goes underneath. So my first alignment of my shoulders is like this. I don't set up my shoulders square. That's death for a golf swing, because look what happens. I've had to bend and fold my most powerful lever away. That's power, that's weak. So the alignment of my shoulders here, and then here, and the second alignment of my shoulders is right elbow tucked in. I don't have my right elbow proud of my left. Right side here, as I address the ball, I want my right elbow slightly tucked in, because as I swing the club back, my right arm folds. If I lock that right arm over here, I'm going to go one way, the oblique way, and then I become poorly coordinated. So when I set myself up here, right elbow's tucked in, right shoulder's lower, that's a hitting position. Boy, oh boy, is that a hitting position. That's not. That is. As I swing back, right elbow folds, body works down, that lever comes into impact, into here. So your shoulder alignment is absolutely key. Two angles to it. Alrighty, so what we'll talk about next time, like I say, is the head. If the head is misaligned, it'll have a huge impact on where your body points. And also, as importantly, have a huge impact on your eye line to the ball. Now, when I put glasses on or I put my binoculars on, I want to be looking face on to where I'm attending to look at. I wouldn't look at something like that, or like this. Everything has to be face on. Alrighty, so any questions on that? So in the past 3 weeks now, we've worked on foot and balance position, how the knees and legs work backwards and forwards in the swing. And today we talked about the rotation of the body and that the arms, the impact of rotation on how the arms swing. Is there any questions that any of you have, or anything you want to discuss today relative to what I've talked about or other things? I'll give you a minute to get your thoughts together if you've got any questions. Here's another great picture for you. Here's Lee Trevino. I mean, look at where his bum's pointing there. He's not even hit the ball there. He's just making contact with it. And look how his body's completely distorted there from how it started. There you go. Brian O'Boyle, what a question that is. Thank you very much, Brian. So Brian's asking me there about one of my favorite photographs. Thanks very much for bringing that up, Brian. In fact, I'm going to use this as my title page today. So what I've got here is Mother Nature. Thanks, Brian. This is brilliant. What I've got here is Mother Nature at work. This is a famous photograph from the Battle of Orgreave, long before digital cameras. And those three miners who were throwing stones there at the police were captured in once in a tiny, tiny frame of time. But look what they're all doing. They're all doing the same thing. So you've got, let's get it right. You've got a miner at the front here, this one here, and this one here. And they're all doing exactly the same thing in that picture. So they're trying to propel a stone as far as they possibly can. So what do? First things first, they've all leant backwards. They've all transferred body weight to their right side. They didn't think about resisting with the hips at all there. You can see them, they lean, and they've got their body moved around. None of them were thinking about shoulder playing, but they all achieved it. They all coiled like this, all the way around. Coil's the wrong word. They pushed their right side behind them. There's no coil there because that left side got way back over here as well. They then used 1, 2, 3 levers. All three of them in that picture there have put their right arm behind them like this in preparation for what happens next. A throw. Now, if they were throwing that stone at the ground to a target down there, what would they do? They'd throw on that plane, a golf plane. Now, the throwing action in a golf swing, the all-greave pitch, which I talk about a lot in our regular lessons, is a throwing action down to where the golf ball is. The pitch of the minors is throwing a trajectory, a launch angle. Now, they didn't have the benefit of TrackMan, but they'd have all launched it on the optimum angle to achieve the full distance. So the reason why I love that picture is it's just purely Mother Nature showing us in a very, very brief moment in time that it's all there for free. You don't have to pay for golf tuition, really. It's all there for free in Mother Nature. I mean, look at them. All got the same amount of knee bend, same position with the arm at the elbow, which is lifting up without the stone. The hand and arm with the stone is cocked at the same angle. And another position there, which I just want to mention, is how their head is aligned to their spine. So you can see that's Mother Nature at work, because that's true balance, true physics, it's leverage, it's everything. Magical picture that for golf. Thanks again, Brian. For older players, would you recommend turning the right foot outwards a bit to help with the backswing? Most certainly not. Thanks, Quentin. The question you're asking me is, should that right foot flare a little bit to achieve a better backswing? It won't achieve a better backswing, Quentin, because it will increase the likelihood of that. As the pressure of the swing goes backwards, it weakens that right side, and now I've slid. There's no power in a slide. We're looking to put the right side behind us. Now, if I slide a little bit here, it's going to take an awful lot of effort to get all my body weight backwards into a follow-through position, and you simply won't do it. A better thing to do there, Quentin, and the premise of your question is absolutely correct. You want to increase the range in which the body moves behind. The best way to do that is to withdraw the right foot, and look what I've done when I do that. I've already increased the range of my body turn to start the shot. And this is why aiming left of target is death for 99% of amateur golfers. Too many visits to the fridge, I'm afraid, there in the old lockdown. Right, so if I'm aligned now more or less to my target, that bunk on the right-hand side, if I aim left, I've got an awful long way to go to turn the hips, the body back before I'm even aligned at 0 degrees, before I make a motion around here. If I set up to the ball here, aligned to the bunker, and withdraw my right foot a bit, I've already increased how early the range of my body turn is in the swing. So, anything whereby that right foot flares out, Quentin, means there'll be less movement behind you and more slide, which is a disaster. It's very hard to get back to the ball properly. By withdrawing that right foot a little bit, I've created, 10 or 15 degrees of body behind the ball already. Now, you've got to think the real distance hounds on tour, Arnold Palmer, Sam Snead, Tiger Woods, all started by pointing right of target anyway. They preset their body in a position where the body was already almost behind the ball. Mo Norman, I've talked about before, one of the quirkiest golfers who ever played, and one who Trevino, Tiger Woods, Ben Hogan all said was the greatest ball striker of their generation, started with his club head not behind the ball, but 2 foot over here. And his view was that he's already eliminated 2 foot of the swing. He's preset his body in a position whereby it's going to go behind him. And so he's taken away inefficiency from his swing. Now, he was very, very quirky and an incredible golfer. He's very high in the Asperger's or autism scale, but widely acknowledged as a genius of the golf swing. incredibly bright and intelligent about the golf swing and its movements, but couldn't really cope with tournament life. Okay, any more questions? I think in fairness, Quentin, I would recommend that most people have their right foot slightly withdrawn anyway. In fact, I'll tell you a funny story about Brian O'Boyle, who's watching here now. So I've taught Brian for 10, 11, 12 years, whatever it is now. And Brian and I have always started with sessions aiming right of target to get the ball to come back here. And it's a difficult thing to do because we all associate wanting to hit the ball on target with pointing on target rather than pointing off target. Anyway, Brian went to go and watch the Scottish Open and then watched Sam Snead play. And he came back and said, Sam Torrance. He said, I came back and said, I watched Sam Torrance at this event, and he was pointing way left of target, like this, very peculiar position. And Brian said, but I watched him, and he was hitting the ball with a lovely big draw. And it really illustrated to someone who'd been taking lessons with me that where we point our feet really facilitates the swing we want to make, not necessarily the direction we want the ball to fly in. So when Sam Torrance was swinging and pointing his feet 10, 15, 20 degrees left of target, he was doing that because it made his body move in a way which got the ball onto. It was a Seniors Open, wasn't it? Scottish Seniors Open, that's right. So Sam Torrance stood in a way which facilitated a body motion to create the ball flight he wanted. And that's golf. In a nutshell, that's golf. You don't have to aim perfectly straight, square, whatever, take the ball to its target. Now these guys here, the Orgreave guys, if you look where their eyes, their face are aligned, you don't have to be an expert on throwing stones to work out where they're throwing. Now, where their feet are pointing tell you nothing other than balance and the position they want to be in to throw something to a target. And I keep coming back to that point about Sam Snead, Tiger Woods, Arnold Palmer, all pointing right of target, and Jack Nicklaus pointing to the left of target. The pros point their body in a position which creates the likelihood for the best shape of shot. They don't always aim dead straight. And for years, or part of my learning, development, chronology, and what have you, I'd obsess about getting people to aim absolutely square to their target. And then over time, I thought, well, it's not really working because I get better results when I get them to aim into different positions and get the ball shaped. And golf is hard. Golf is so difficult. We've got to find the best way of doing it for everybody. Alrighty, so are there any more questions about today's topic or any other topics outside of what we talked about? If you have anything which you remember in between sessions, then just send me an email. I love getting hold of them. And I can often use them as topics in the sessions. Failing that, I will see you all next Wednesday, where we're going to talk about the head inside and out. And then after that, we'll start looking at some different topics to talk about during the sessions. So I'll wait a minute or two, just see if there's any more questions to come through. All right, folks. Well, thanks again for joining me. I hope you're all staying fit and healthy. I hope you've enjoyed today's session. I really, really enjoy the interaction with you. It's great fun. It's almost as good as having you here in some ways. And I look forward to getting you all back to the golf course very soon. So thank you, Eugene. Thanks very much indeed. Nice to see you all. And I look forward to seeing you all next time. So I'm doing sessions on Friday for the juniors. I'm doing a session on Saturday morning, a deep dive into the technical side of things. I'm doing a session on Saturday as well for the On Course Foundation. And then next Tuesday, I'll get back to a ladies session. The Wi-Fi went down yesterday, so we couldn't do a ladies session there. So I'm going to focus on the short game on Tuesday, next Tuesday. And there's an email going out today with all the schedule anyway. Stay healthy. God bless you all. All the best.